Hello and welcome yet again to another video of Scrivosphere. I am Ryan as usual, and today, what I like to do on my channel is lists, and usually it's like ranking TV shows and the seasons. Eventually I'll get round to doing characters, especially when Supernatural ends. To keep the Supernatural feature going. But today's list is very different. I'm not necessarily considered an avid gamer. However, through the years I have played a lot of games. And considering the fact that we're almost done with 2020, which has been a god-awful year, I figured I'd sit down and talk about some of the best games. Particularly doing a list of all the games between 2000 and 2020. So there's 21 games in total. So without further ado, let's get on with the list. And at number 21, well, not necessarily number 21, but more like in the 2000s. When I looked through the games, this one jumped out at me, and I haven't played it very often. So I can't say whether or not it's the best game of 2000, but it was certainly the one that I had played in 2000. Let's not forget, I was about 7 or 8 at the time, so we're talking, I was still on the PS1, PS2, wasn't around the corner just yet, era. So, 2000 game, of course, is The Sims, the original game. I actually do remember playing this quite fondly. Enjoying it to a certain extent, but for me, I sort of died down with the Sims games and barely ever play them anymore. So, there's not much else to say for it. So, 2000s, The Sims. In 2001, there was a few more games on the list that I recognised, but for me, Halo Combat Evolved was the better game of that year. Always remember enjoying shooting some aliens in that one. We wouldn't yet get to that sort of evolved campaign style thing that we get in the later games. But this one was, again, definitely an enjoyable game, and it's definitely one that I have fond memories of playing with my friends back in the day. 2002. Now, this is where you might see a few certain names pop up more than once in my list. In this one in particular, it's the 2002 Spider-Man game, the movie game, and it's an absolutely brilliant game. Obviously the web slinging is not true to what Spider-Man can do. He webs to anything, He webs to clouds. That's what he's webbing to. But again, I remember getting this on the first day, and I remember enjoying it immensely. This was one of the best superhero games at the time. And you were able to actually change how you looked. You could play as Mary Jane, so at the end you'd have a very awkward Mary Jane kiss. You could play as Green Goblin. You had all these different characters that you could play as, and it was fun. While not being the best Spider-Man game out there, it's definitely one worth playing. So in 2003, and I think this one can be quite obvious to a lot of people, this is my all-time favourite Simpsons game, and that is, of course, Hit and Run. What a game to play. The gameplay itself is quite good. I'm still trying to get it again, so I can play it on the Xbox 360. But I've struggled recently to get it on my budget. But it is definitely a game worth picking up and worth giving a go. I can't see why you wouldn't have already given it a go, but it is definitely one that's worth a play. So 2004, and going back on what I said before, some names will pop up more than once. 2004 brought us the Spider-Man 2 game, the movie game. This is considered one of the best Spider-Man games out there. And it is purely and simply one of the best Spider-Man games. It's not the best, and we will get to that one later on. I think you'll know when. But don't worry, it's not Spider-Man 3. God awful game. But this game, it had the tie-in to the movie. The gameplay is brilliant. They brought in the mechanics of being able to actually web on buildings rather than just to the clouds. This one is an absolute top-notch game. And if you haven't played it yet, where are you living? So, moving on to 2005, a year that I fondly remember as being, the year that Supernatural came out and everything. It was a year where I wasn't playing video games as much due to the fact that I was getting into TV shows. I might have been returning to some old shows at that point as well. But for me, the best game that was released in 2005 was Resident Evil 4. Now, at this point, I was, 12, 13, and the gameplay, while not as perfect as it did get down the line, the actual story was brilliant, and this was the first Resident Evil game that I ever played, and it was so much fun, and I love it, and again, I can't wait to get it again. Now, it is available on the PSN store at the moment, so eventually I will get down the line of buying it again. I have played it since on the Xbox One, when I had the Xbox One years ago. I played it back then, and I absolutely love this game. Even till today, today, it's one of my favourite Resident Evil games on the list. So, moving on to 2006. Again, there was a lot of games out then, and there was a lot of choice out there. But for me, this game is ultimately the best. Ultimate Alliance, What else can I say? A superhero game that allowed you to play as the likes of Iron Man, Wolverine, Spider-Man. You had Doctor Strange, Blade in it, but they didn't put them into the second one, which I thought was a little bit odd. But this game is absolutely brilliant. It's just amazing. And I love the story of it as well. I love a good Marvel story. So Marvel is my thing. When you take away the demons and stuff. So, moving on to 2007, and it's the Tomb Raider Anniversary Edition, which I believe had a couple of games in there from the Tomb Raider series, back when, she was still a Square thing. But this is the updated versions. I remember playing this with my dad. My dad, not much of a gamer at all, but when it came to it, the only game he would ever play is Tomb Raider games. He absolutely loves them. The whole thing with climbing, and that I tried to get him into the Uncharted games because that's very much similar in the way that they work, with the whole climbing to get to a certain checkpoint, shooting down some. In this case, you get some weird levels where you're shooting gods and stuff like that. But this was one of the best games at the time, and I do love a good Tomb Raider game. Don't get me wrong, the newer ones, while I do prefer the old ones, personally, but the new ones have definitely come into the age of current RPG style stealth madness, which I'm not always down for, but I will enjoy playing at the same time. So moving on to 2008, and again, there was a lot of games. Okay, my computer is dying. Yeah, because I've got a laptop. So in 2008, there was a lot of games again that had a lot of decent, it warranted for me to put it in this list. But for me, GTA 4, Grand Theft Auto 4, the storyline, Nico Bellic, you've got everything in there that you want. Nico Bellic as his character is absolutely brilliant. He doesn't take no shit from nobody, unlike his cousin Tony. I believe was it Tony? I could be wrong there, but it's definitely his cousin. But for me, this is an absolutely brilliant game. Nico Bellic as a character is 100% one of the best video game characters of all time. If not the best, I might get down to who is the best later on in the video. But anyway, let's move on to 2009. And 2009 is another sequel to a series of games that these games are some of the best games out there. And I absolutely love the whole series. Even the third one, which people gave a little bit of shit towards. But for me, I enjoy every single one. Including Lost Legacy, by the way. Like, Lost Legacy was shit on for the amount of time it took, but it's an absolutely brilliant game. But the 2009 game I'm talking about is, of course, Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 is absolutely brilliant. And for me, while for me it is not my favourite in the series, number 4 is my favourite in the series, Thief's End. But Uncharted 2 definitely brought in some new mechanics from the original. The story was upped, like hyped and hooked to 110%. This game is bloody brilliant, and again, this is one that I look forward to playing again and getting again, as I recently did sell that 3-pack, which included the original 3 games. I got rid of it recently because I was stuck for money. So I'm looking to get that back very soon. Okay, so before I get on to the 2010s, just a little, the usual stuff for you. Please like, comment and subscribe on my channel. It is much appreciated. And click that notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos are uploaded. Let's continue. And we are back again. So, the 2010s. Well, can you call it 2010s? The 2010s. Anyway, this is going to be more interesting because all of these games I have played, and I have played them quite recently as well. Part 1 or maybe 2. But I have played them all quite recently, so they are all fresh in my head. Speaking of one of the ones I haven't played recently, but do remember quite well, is Halo Reach. The 2010 game is Halo Reach. This game is absolutely brilliant. This is probably one of the last games I had on the Xbox before I got rid of it. I love this game. There's nothing that I can't say any more of about it. Again, fond memories of playing this with my friends, with some Mountain Dew, some Red Bull, some Monster cans, what have you, and some snacks. You can't go wrong with a bit of Halo. It was always Halo and FIFA for me back in the day with the Xbox 360. So yeah, Halo Reach in the 2010. So in 2011, and one that I think nobody will be surprised about, it's the one that started off this bloody brilliant franchise of games, and that is of course Arkham City. Arkham City didn't start the series, but Arkham Asylum did. Apologies for that. I don't know where that came from. I think I just saw the word Arkham and got excited. Arkham City. Again, I do not consider this to be the best in the series. And I know a lot of people will hate me for that, because a lot of people will be saying, well, Arkham City is the best. For me, of course, Arkham Knight is the better game. Just slightly. But Arkham City is definitely second best in that case. But this game is absolutely brilliant. You get to play as Batman through and through in Gotham, or in a more cut off Gotham than you get in Arkham Knight. And that's one of the reasons why I like Arkham Knight a little bit more as well, is that you get to play in more areas of Gotham. But the story, the ending, there are going to be. This is a spoiler for you, but killing off the Joker in this one was an absolute shock to me. And then of course they went back to Arkham Origins, so the Joker was back. And then Arkham Knight, they had the whole thing where only Batman could see the Joker because he was a bit loopy because of what happened in the events of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. So, but this is an absolute top-notch game. Hearing that Protocol 10 is like an hour away is one of the more friendly moments, because you're thinking, crap, I've got to get on with this. I've got to actually get on with the levels. Obviously the time frame isn't there because you can go off and do all the side missions and come back, and it's only been an hour, but it might have taken you 3 to 4 hours to actually complete those side missions with difficulty levels. So there's not always that kind of thing. So yeah, Arkham City 2011. Mwah. In 2012, there was not a lot of games out there. When looking at the list, I was like, didn't like that one, didn't like that one. That one was okay. This one I quite enjoyed. I've only played it. I've probably only put in about 5 hours on this game. So it's a little bit of a cheat, but for me, when I look at the games from 2012, it wasn't a great year for games. It wasn't a terrible year for games. It just wasn't an absolute great year for games. And for me, that is Dishonored. Again, I didn't play much of it, but what I did play, I enjoyed. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I know that it did have a few problems back in the day, but they definitely upgraded it later on. But yeah, I enjoyed Dishonored. Would I pick it up again? Probably down the line, like once I picked up every other game that I've ever had. But this one for me was through and through the best game in that year. So 2013. Now 2013 was a really hard one, and I am cheating on this one, because I'm going to put 2 games in here. And I'll tell you what, I cannot choose between these 2 games. If I were to pick one, it'll be the one that I'm going to mention second. But for me, the honourable... Okay, I'll do it like this. The honourable mention in 2013 is GTA 5. The winner for the 2013 has to be The Last of Us. 2 brilliant games in the era, and the device I'm using to do the list is currently dying. So if all of a sudden I stop, it's because of that. Okay, so moving on, we have 2014's Alien Isolation. Not a great game. Every time I've tried to play it, I've not been very satisfied by it. But yeah, it's a good game, nonetheless. Probably one of the better games that year. So I'm going to try and rush through this because my device is dying. So for 2015, I've got Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight, again, as I said before, it is one of my favourite games of all time. And definitely one. I just can't see myself loving any other game like this. Like, for Batman, it is the ideal Batman game in my opinion. You get the Batmobile in there as well. Yeah, it is a bit repetitive with the Batmobile, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. So, 2016 gave us Uncharted 4, Thief's End. What a game. Again, this is the best in the franchise in my opinion. Absolutely brilliant. And the storyline is 100% Nathan Drake. It's 100% Nate. You cannot disagree with me on that. It is the best game. Again, this is my opinion. I'm not trying to say it's my way or the highway, but it is the best game of that year. So, moving on to 2017, and 2017 is an interesting one because I have played this over and over again. I've done reruns of it and everything, and it is a great game, and it's Horizon Zero Dawn. Again, there's a few mixed feelings on this out in the real world, I think, because, if you don't like this type of game, you're not going to like it at all. But for me, I love this game. I'm just going to get rid of this. But for me, I love this game. It is absolutely one of the top-notch games of that year. And again, it's one that I hope to get very soon. As I say, I got rid of that when I was money. So, moving on to 2018, and this won't be a surprise for anybody. Of course, it is that Spider-Man game, the Marvel's PS4 Spider-Man. What a game! It is my all-time favourite game. I'm not going to lie to you. And you might think, what, superhero game, really? But it is. It is absolutely 100% brilliant. And it is one that I continuously play now to this day. I've gotten rid of it a few times to get a bit of cash, but I've always come back to it eventually. And again, I'm currently rerunning it on the Ultimate Edition, and I'm actually getting through it quite easy. To be fair, it's not Ultimate still, not in my opinion anyway. But it's the ultimate game for anybody that loves Marvel and loves Spider-Man. Now 2019 as a year of video games wasn't great, but this video game in particular was. A little bit of cheat here with this game, but it Resident Evil 2 remake. Wow, wow. Now I don't remember playing the original Resident Evil 2 because I wasn't old enough at the time. But when it came to playing the remake, and I was like, "Ooh, zombie game. Ooh, I've played a Resident Evil game before. Let's see how this is." You know, I mean, at this point, I'd already played every other Resident Evil game from 4 onwards. You know, um, number 7 absolutely revitalised the series. Um, because 5 and 6 has its troubles. They're sort of swayed into the more. I mean, especially with 6, they swayed into more of action orientated rather than the way the Resident Evil games always have been. Resident Evil 2 brought that back with a little bit of action in there. Um, it is a brilliant remake of a game. Um, when you hear remake of a game, you just think, oh, it's you don't hear that very often. It's usually remastered, or it's usually it's usually remastered. Sorry, I thought I heard a knock on the door. You usually get it remastered, or you get it sort of like a special edition or something like that. It's very unheard of to get a remake, I think. Point it out if I'm wrong, but that's what I think. But yeah, that's the 2019 game. So we'll come into the last game now. The game of the year for me, and this is controversial. In a year where we've had Last of Us 2, which I haven't played yet. Yeah, I mean I've been spoiled to hell with it because I watch YouTube too much, so I know a lot of the way it goes. I know Joel, poor Joel. But yeah, in a year where we've had games that are coming out, there's still games to come out, and there are still games coming out as we speak. But this list is based on games I've actually played. That's why you won't see any games that you made. Like it was very hard not to put an Assassin's Creed game in here. But when I saw another game on the list from that year, I had to just go with that one. But for me, personally, the 2020 game of the year at this point, I've not got round to Miles Morales. I've not got it yet. It's looking to be a Christmas present for my mother. But the 2020 game of the year for me is Avengers. Now, I know this is very controversial. The Avengers game is not perfect. By no means is it brilliant. But being able to play as Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and Hulk and Black Widow even and Miss Marvel. What else could you have? What else could you ask for? Yes, the game's repetitive. Yes, the game has its troubles. I have said it on my channel before. The game is problematic. But it is an enjoyable game. Now, obviously, me putting this on this list, does sort of downgrade the list a bit. But I've got to base it on what I have played this year. And I've played a lot of games this year that have come out this year, but this one for me is the one I enjoyed the most. While repetitive, while it can be a laggy piece of shit sometimes, and while the frames per second do not hold up, and you get these stupid levels where you have to stand on a plank, like you have to stand in a certain area and wait for your teammate to, probably ask your teammate to basically smash. If it's the Hulk, especially in that first one where it's Miss Marvel and the Hulk, the Hulk's around you. You're on the spot as Miss Marvel, or you're on the spot as the Hulk. And they're asking you to wait there while villains are still coming at you. But if that was a multiplayer level, that would make sense, because obviously there are people out there that play the game. They're a hell of a lot smarter than any AI. They will keep the villains off you. That was a hell of a level to try and get through. I ain't gonna lie. That was probably one of the worst levels I've ever played in a video game. And there's still loads more in that game to play. And they're bringing in, like, Hawkeye's going to be in it, Black Panther, Spider-Man exclusive to the PS4, which I am extremely worried about, because it's not the. I mean, I'm so glad that it's not going to be, the Sony PS4 Spider-Man. It's going to be their own, because I did not want them putting in that Spider-Man into such a shit game. I know I'm calling it a shit game, yet it's on my list as the 2020 winner. But again, it's down to enjoyability and what I have played. It is the game I have enjoyed the most and had the most fun out of, even when it's been laggy as shit. So that's my list. It's just my opinion. Don't kill me because I haven't put an Assassin's Creed on here, or a Devil May Cry video game, or Call of Duty. I don't like Call of Duty games, to be fair. It's not my genre of games. While I have got a couple of Call of Duty games, they are not my type of game. So that's my video. It's quite a lengthy one for what it is. Thanks for watching. I actually really enjoyed looking up the video games that came out in that year and remembering games that I hadn't remembered playing like for years, and getting that sort of nostalgia feeling. That's what it is. But that's 21 games in 20 years. Let's get 2020 out of the way, bring 2021 on, bring some more video games on, and hopefully get a new console some point next year. Maybe when it's half price. Maybe when the PS6 comes out, I'll get the PS5. You never know. Anyway, hang on a second. Whoa, hang on. How the hell? No. 2020, no. Avengers, no. Okay, so obviously, realistically this is naughty, because I said it was all about the games that I have actually played. But I have now played Spider-Man Miles Morales. Forgot the Miles then for a second. I have now played Spider-Man Miles Morales, and there is no way that Avengers is staying at my top 20, my 2020 best video game. No way. While I enjoyed Avengers, the game in comparison to Spider-Man Miles Morales is absolutely piss poor against Miles Morales. Miles Morales is the best game of 2020. I just wanted to clear that up before I go. So, thanks. Thanks for watching. I've been Scrivo. This has been Scrivosphere. And I'll see you next time.